Hi, everybody. I just wanted to get on here and, just talk about something that happened yesterday on March 27th, 2023. Is about that shooting in that church school down there in Nashville, Tennessee. And I gotta tell you, when I found out about it, didn't know a whole lot because I was, in the middle of working on something at a nearby library. But I've actually learned a lot since, yesterday and everything. I feel really sad for those 6 people and their family that, were killed. What really I find most disturbing is that one of the little kids that died was the child of the minister. I think it was the head minister or one of the ministers there at the church. I can't imagine what that child's parents must be feeling. I was just telling Tony, I said, I wouldn't be surprised after everything is said and done if the minister of that church doesn't step down because, that has to be like beyond traumatic for him and his wife and everything. I feel really bad for them. I was also seeing where President Joe Biden was talking about gun control and whatever. And I also saw where the chief of police down there was talking about, well, if we'd known she was having issues, we would have, got the guns away from her. I'm thinking, it's like I've said before about, like, the Sandy Hook shooter from, a few years back. They knew that boy at Sandy Hook, Connecticut had problems. I don't understand why, they weren't paying close enough attention to him. And I'm thinking the same thing about this girl. It's like, if she was that unhappy, why didn't her family pay better attention to her? Because, I know, and this is an awful thing to say, but I actually know a minister that committed suicide several years ago. And he had the predisposition to, have mental health issues and commit suicide because that's what happened with, like, one of his parents. And part of me thinks, well, why didn't you all pay better attention? I understand, people get depressed and people have mental health issues. I know a few people with mental health issues. But they're doing okay because they, go see a therapist and, try to get help. There are ways out that don't include suicide. And, I very firmly believe that, if you need help, please reach out to somebody and get help. People will not think less of you if you ask for help. I don't understand why people don't reach out and at least try, even if you call the suicide hotline, I'm a very firm believer in that. That's what bothers me the worst is, why didn't this shooter get help? Psychiatric help. Like they said, that she was struggling with issues. Okay, well, why didn't she get help? Is my question. Why did she not reach out for help? What was going on that she was so distraught that she writes a manifesto, goes out and shoots up a church school? What was going on in her life that was just that atrocious that she couldn't get help? Why? What was going on there? Seriously. The other thing is, and I do very firmly believe in the red flag laws. They are starting to enact those there. And I've actually, around the nation, I very firmly believe in what they're calling the red flag laws. What it is I think it should be federal law, like across the board, that says, like if somebody's having mental health issues, that Yeah, I mean, and I know the Second Amendment, prevents, you know, the government from taking our arms and stuff, but what needs to happen is, if somebody is having mental health issues, you know, we don't need to hurt the person. We need to have some kind of system set in place to where people struggling with mental health issues can't access guns, at least, like across the board. And like what should happen is like say that so and so will say, for example, say there's a guy named Bob who's struggling with his mental health, and say Bob has a brother named George, and George has is like one step down from being like Fort Knox or something. The man has guns out the yin yang, and he's an avid gun collector. But say Bob, is like starting to act off, and even George notices it, but doesn't say anything. But say Bob's getting psychiatric help, and he tells his therapist, I'm, thinking about, harming myself in some way, shape, and form, even though, or it's like, anything like, I'm thinking about hurting myself, or, he's just, miserable and is just struggling and everything. But if it's, something where, he's just like, I just want to hurt somebody, or I want to hurt something, I think the therapist should report that, and say, I have reason to believe that he's, thinking of harming himself and or others. And I think, that it's the therapist's legal duty to, report that, and at least say, I think there's something very egregious about to happen. I mean, granted, that would be, breaking the patient's trust, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And if it, could save even one life, even his, that's what needs to happen. I mean, my question is could this have been stopped? I'm sure it could have been stopped. I mean, surely somebody somewhere knew something. That's my question. Who knew she was going to do this? I mean, I'm sure, besides her, other than the shooter, her parents or somebody should have been paying better attention to these people. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, it's obvious that these shooters, nobody's keeping an eye on them. But back to that example about Bob and George, if the therapist reports thinking, Bob's going to harm himself and or others, there should be like a system, in place to where, like, okay, like they put an alert in the system, where, like, if somebody reports this person's having an issue, and like it'll like ding like a system where anybody that is like related to or like in that person's like circle of like neighbors, friends, relatives, that are like in like, I'd say like a 50-mile radius of this guy or person, like they get like they have guns. What would happen is, or what I think should happen is, like, that pops their information up to where, like, what should happen is, like, the police get notified, hey, this person has, there's a person that is like related to or that knows this person, knows like George on some level, and that the person that the anonymous person that, and like, don't say who it is to the police, but it alerts the police and tells them, okay, you need to go talk to George because he possibly knows somebody that has said that they want to harm themselves and or somebody else or somebody or other people. And what needs to happen is the police get notified of that and they go visit George and say, hey, we just got an alert that you own guns, which is fine and legal and whatever, but you have somebody that you know in some format, like a friend, a family member, a neighbor, somebody that has threatened to harm themselves and or others. You might want to lock your stuff down, and if, somebody comes to you wanting your guns for, to borrow your gun or whatever, and it's you haven't talked about going hunting or, doing whatever with this person, and it's just some random thing, and you talk to them about it, and it starts sounding off, this is who it is. We don't know who the person is. It's just, we got an alert saying that you might, know somebody that's threatening to harm people. Yeah, that's true, Patrick's time. There has been a lot of trans shooters lately. But yeah, like I said, I think, that they need to figure out a way to, at least alert people. Because, with the Sandy Hook shooter, the kid helped himself to his mom's guns, shot and killed her. And I'm thinking, maybe if we have a way of, it's kind of like an Amber Alert almost, I guess is how to frame it. To say, hey, we have somebody threatening to harm themselves and or others. Please be aware. I think that would actually, hopefully it would probably, I'm hoping something like that would work it to where eventually it'll stop or slow it down or something. Curb it, hopefully. I don't understand why, people are just so upset lately about, I don't know what, just mental health issues or whatever. But, I very firmly think that if they had almost something almost like an Amber Alert system, but not where it gets popped up on a screen or whatever somewhere, on an Artemis sign or whatever. Not something like that, but I'm just saying a way of notifying the police, so that way the police know to keep an eye out for people lurking around the area or whatever, or trying to or even let gun stores know, hey, if somebody, get them the information, or red flag the person's social, so if they go get a gun, and they go to do the Brady Law background check, that it pops up, and it they figure out a way to say, they act well, there's something going on where, we, have to check for that or whatever, there's make up an excuse or whatever to not sell them the guns or even the bullets even. We just have to figure out how to do that. But there's got to be a better way to, help curb and or prevent this. I'm not saying I have the, cure-all for that, but I'm just thinking there should be some way to stop something like what happened yesterday in Nashville, for example, or what happened in Uvalde, Texas, or Sandy Hook, Vermont, or even Columbine almost 25 years ago. That was 23 years ago this year. Because that was in April. It was in April of 1999. So it's about 23 years ago now. It'll be 25 years in 2 years. I was just ironically watching something about Columbine last night here on YouTube. And that got me thinking about it. It's it's been almost 25 years since Columbine happened. And, it's what has gone on in the last 20, 5 years almost. It's like everybody's went crazy and lost their minds. But anyway, I also mainly want to say I feel sorry for the people down there in Nashville, Tennessee, and especially for the folks that lost their loved ones yesterday in that shooting at that church on March 27, 2023. Anyway, folks, I'm going to stop here for right now. And if I think of something else to say, I'll hop on here. But y'all have a good evening. Bye.